Duke has a hidden gem that no one in the national media is talking about, but we got to break down exactly what this defensive beast is capable of. What's up, guys? I'm Matt Long. Welcome to Duke Basketball 365. If you're a Duke basketball fan, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out a ton. But getting into the news for today, coming from Sports Illustrated, as a first-year Duke basketball talent last season, then junior forward Malik Brown averaged only 2.5 points per game across his 15.8 minutes per game, marking a considerable drop-off from his 9.8 points in 29.6 minutes per outing as a sophomore at Syracuse. Now, as a Duke basketball senior for the Duke Blue Devils, one of the favorites to win the ACC, the long-limbed 21-year-old is set to enter the season as a top contender for the ACC's Defensive Player of the Year award. Also, there is no doubt his name will at least begin the campaign among those in conversation for the national award, as NCAA March Madness's Andy Katz placed him as number 7 among all lockdown defenders in the country in his preseason ranking. Now, Malik Brown is one of the most important pickups for Jon Scheyer's recruiting class from last season. Brought in Malik Brown from Syracuse, brought in Sion James from Tulane. Sion James went to the NBA, gets a whole lot more love because he was a high second-round pick, playing for the Charlotte Hornets. You understand why. But Malik Brown is a guy whose stats don't jump off the page because he's a defensive guy. You got to really watch the games to actually understand the full impact that this player has on the game. But reading off what his stats have started looking like this season, averaging 7 points per game, 3.7 rebounds per game, 1 assist, shooting almost 70% from the field. Although if you watch Malik Brown, most of his points occur from either free throws or transition buckets. He's not really going to be shooting a whole lot, although he can shoot very good, real solid shooter should he be left wide open. If he's not open, he's going to dish that to somebody else. But the important thing that Malik Brown does for this team is he plays defense at an extremely high level. He is the most active hands in all of college basketball. You cannot throw a pass anywhere near this guy. And I always say to my friends, this guy looks like the absolute last person. He looks like he's absolutely zero fun to play against. He, came over to Duke, forced so many turnovers, makes life just so obnoxiously difficult for whoever his opponent is. Game 1 against Texas, got into a little bit of foul trouble, so he has to, make sure he's staying out of foul trouble. One of all the best defenders to take that next step, going from a really good defender to an elite defender, you have to find a way to defend well without fouling. So that would be the next step for Malik Brown to take this season, although he's not really he's a fantastic defender, but it's his hands getting in passing lanes. That's what he does the best. And what's great about that is it sets up transition opportunities for Duke, where Duke, every single season, we are usually leading in transition points because when you bring in the top recruits, what do they look for in top recruits? They look for, height and athleticism. It's not as much, basketball skill. When you look at the top 3 guys, yeah, it's those guys are always going to be sick at basketball, but it comes down to a lot of these guys, everyone in the top 50 for basketball rankings, they're all really good basketball players. So the top guys are always the biggest and most athletic guys, which means when we're playing against other teams, our guys are always going to be bigger and more athletic. They're going to be bigger, faster, stronger. That's why Duke is able to run people in the transition game. And that's one of the things that makes these Duke teams so special, even though usually we're very young because we are turning guys over one and done, and our best players usually a freshman every single season, so they don't always come in with the best shooting stats. We can remember even that year back with Zion, RJ, and who am I forgetting? And Cam Reddish, we didn't have a ton of shooting that year because when freshmen come in, they're not fantastic at shooting, so we got to figure out other ways to impact the game. But so far this season, we have seen a shift in Jon Scheyer's recruiting philosophy and team building philosophy, where his strategy is just put together the tallest team that he can because he knows that the guys we're going to get are going to be good. If we watched last year's team, Duke had the tallest starting 5 in the entire country, rolling out Tyrese Proctor at the 1, tall point guard, rolling out Kama Malawat to the 5, one of the tallest defenders at the 5 position in all of college basketball. So his strategy is put together a tall physical team because he understands that we are not, or usually Duke isn't an amazing shooting team, although last season they were a very, very good shooting team. And I understand we've had some top shooters come through like Jared McCain over the past couple of years as well. But usually we're physical, and that's how we're planning on winning games. And that's why what Malik Brown does, forcing those live ball turnovers, matters so much more specifically for Duke. It's because we are the proper team that is properly put together to take full advantage of those turnovers. And one of the other things that Scheyer has been looking for is he's looking for guys that are able to defend. Basketball, it's a tall person sport. When you are taller, that makes it easier to play defense, but also Scheyer wants to put together elite defenders on the perimeter. So last season we saw Malik Brown paired with Cooper Flagg and Sion James all on the perimeter, all elite defenders. Guys were able to lock down other teams, which is one of the reasons why the team was so fantastic last year. But Malik Brown, he may be a forward on the depth chart, but he's a guy who can guard 1 through, I would say probably 1 through 5, definitely 1 through 4. The point I'm trying to make is he's a big man who's able to cover the smaller guards because his feet are that fast when he's able to defend on the perimeter, and he gives a dimension to this team that a lot of teams are looking for, but not many teams are actually able to have. Now, Duke, next game is going to be up against Indiana State. Not going to be a super tough matchup. Should be another big time win for the Blue Devils, but after that, we will be facing the Kansas Jayhawks in the second big time game of the year. If you consider the Texas game a big game, which I do, the SEC put in a record, I believe it was 14 teams into the March Madness tournament last season. The SEC's fantastic for basketball. That Texas team was really, really good. That was a very quality win for the Duke Blue Devils, even if the Texas Longhorns did not carry a ranking when they were into that game. But now talking about a team that does carry a ranking, the Kansas Jayhawks, starting the season at 25. Now, after their Friday night loss to North Carolina, they've dropped down from 19 to 25. And if we want to take a look at what they are cooking on their roster so far, we know about their number one guy, their guard Darren Peterson, missed their game, I think it was last night, with an injury, but he's currently, over the first 2 games of the season, he's averaging 21.5 points per game. So I think we know where we are going to be using our top defenders, and we know which guy. I mean, we could figure this out without looking at the stats. We know Darren Peterson is the best player on Kansas, but we know where Malik Brown might get switched on, might be playing him for good. We know what the core and who we got to stop when we are facing against Kansas. But some of the other notable players that we are going to have to slow down is going to be forward Flory Baduga. He's averaging 14.3 points per game, 7 rebounds per game. Kansas, they don't have Hunter Dickinson, so we fortunately don't have to deal with him anymore. I mean, one of the problems with him is you never know when he's going to injure one of your players on purpose. He's kind of a dirty player. Fortunately, he has finally hit the Indeed transfer portal. But when you are looking at Kansas, that's another blue blood program that's always going to have top talent on their roster. We got to make sure we are bringing our A game. Boozer cannot come out slowly again. He cannot come out cold again in the first half like we did against Texas, but should be a highly entertaining game when the Duke Blue Devils finally take on the Kansas Jayhawks. I know a whole lot of Duke fans have that game marked down on their calendar, and we should always love getting that blue blood matchup in the very beginning of the season every single year for Duke. But that's what I got for this video. If you stuck around this long, appreciate you taking the time to watch it. Please hit that like button if you haven't already. Hit the subscribe button if you're new to the channel, and go Duke.